Good afternoon. My name is Paul Schnell, and I'm with the Hastings Police Department in Minnesota, and I'm sorry I couldn't be with you today. Unfortunately, a hearing came up that I have to be at and testifying while I would be doing this session. I was looking forward to coming for a whole variety of reasons. One is Wisconsin's home to me. I left Wisconsin to attend college in Minnesota and ended up staying, but I still have a great love for the state, and it's home to me. So I wish I could have been with you. Case review is challenging, and speaking about this, I mean, I want to be clear about the fact that I'm going to wear the hat of an investigator first. When I was with the St. Paul Police Department prior to my current job, I spent a considerable chunk of time in the sex crimes unit. And as part of that, we began to look at the cases that we were doing because of our involvement in an interdisciplinary team. And while there was great learning that happened across the team and looking at how we work together to process these cases and deliver really good services to victims, one of the things that became profoundly clear very quickly was that there was a wide and vast difference that existed among the investigators who were handling these cases. Not only did we see incredible differences in the outcomes on the cases themselves, but even the way they were being investigated. So for instance, when you would take, for instance, a 6-month or a 1-year section of work product of investigators, and you would look at the number of search warrants or the number of pretext calls or the number of sexual assault examination kits that were being processed at the lab, and compared that investigator to investigator, the differences were immense. And we began to then ask the question, why is that? And for us, it really became the way we start the conversation about doing case review. And it wasn't to beat people up, it wasn't to get people, it was really about what do we learn from this? How do we process cases? What are minimum expectations around investigation? What level of engagement should we expect with a victim prior to making investigative decisions about that? These were all really key and significant questions, and that led us to a whole host of other questions just around the types of cases that we were, as a group, pretty good at investigating, and really, I think, became obvious the cases that we were really struggling to move forward. And I would venture that we had to create some rules around our conversation. And the rules were that we had to come to the weekly case review with a summary of where our cases were at, how many were active, how many we made inactive or pended, and if we pended them, why, and what investigative efforts were done with those. If we had a case was made inactive because a victim disengaged or decided not to pursue, we wanted to know that because that was one of the questions that we had as a team. Was there something that we were doing, or is there something that we as a department were doing that were making that more challenging? And then each investigator had to identify one case that they were working on that was a challenge to them at the present time, so that investigators could give each other some feedback. And we limited this conversation to 1 hour only and no more. In acquaintance sexual assaults, we saw big changes in the case closures on those that made it inactive. And largely it was, if you came to the review and you didn't offer a pretext and look at that as an investigative option in the right circumstance, the team would want to know why. Because we knew that that was one of the investigative strategies that had been underutilized. And with the cases that we were being most challenged by, that was going to be one of the really effective tools that we had that we weren't utilizing as well. And it came about as a result of, I think, a combination of some training and then applying that training to that case review. When we open ourselves up to showing all the good and the bad, not just to ourselves, but to our partners in the team, I think it does ultimately result in our partners understanding the challenges that we in law enforcement face. I also think it helps them understand the places that they can better help serve victims, because they are far more aware of the particular challenges that we may face in law enforcement. And at the end of the day, we will end up with a better outcome because of that. And yet I know full well, having been there, that sometimes that sense of feeling exposed is not very comfortable.